Okay, so in this introduction, I'm just going to tell you how to write an introduction. This is very basic. Some of you have this down, and some of you are sometimes unsure on how to do this. So I wanted to make this as clear as possible for you guys. Okay, so just some of the basics. The first one is you must introduce the topic, all right? So some of you have very interesting topics, and you must introduce that topic when you do your introduction. You have to have an opening sentence for each paragraph. Okay, so here's an example. So the opening sentence here is obesity is the number one problem in the United States. Okay, so that's my opening sentence. I'm telling the reader that I'm fixing to talk about obesity. All right. And then in the next sentence, I give you some information on why it's the number one problem in the United States. It has been reported by Welsh 2017 that the number of people who have self-identified as obese has increased 27% in the last 10 years. And then I also have some more information um, by saying this increase in obesity has also increased in teenagers, with a larger percentage of teens having an average BMI of 33 or more. So my opening sentence is telling the reader, I'm going to talk about obesity. Let me tell you what's going on in obesity. Sometimes people define obesity and they'll say, maybe the next sentence after the opening sentence is, obesity is defined as a BMI of blah, blah, blah. So there's a number of ways that you can do that, but you've got to have an opening sentence. All right, my next bullet point here, number 3. If you start on a new idea, then you need to start a new paragraph. Okay, so my example, I've used this paragraph up here and I've talked about it here, but then my next one, again, nutrition counseling is a new method introduced in the school systems in an attempt to decrease obesity. So notice, I've got an opening sentence, and my opening sentence is about nutrition counseling. All right, and nutritional counseling is a different topic than obesity, so I'm starting a new paragraph. And then again, what I'm doing is I'm providing some references on what nutritional counseling is and what it's done and what people have found. Again, you might have a second sentence that describes what nutritional counseling is. What do you mean by that? Okay, so make sure that when you, in each paragraph, each new idea is a new paragraph, and each new paragraph has an opening sentence. Always add a concluding sentence after you have discussed the idea. So again, here is an example. So I'm using my obesity. I've talked about what other people have found, and then I have a closing sentence for this paragraph. This suggests that obesity is a problem within the United States. All right, so my closing paragraph of that information. And then I'm starting my next paragraph. I introduced what nutritional counseling is. I gave some references about nutritional counseling. And at the end of that paragraph, these studies suggest that incorporating food counseling into the curriculum may be a way to decrease the rising rate of obesity in teens. So you introduce, you provide references, and you conclude based on those references for each idea within that paragraph. Now notice on these, you can also have longer paragraphs. I mean, some of you are going to have 3 or 4 references maybe related to your sentence. You can do that. That's fine. This is just a very simple example. Okay, don't just report numbers from other studies, but indicate what those numbers mean. So this is very common. I see this a lot. Students will say Rogers and others found that there was a 21% increase in liposuction surgeries in those that were obese. And then they just leave it at that. But you need to add something more, such as the researcher suggested that this increase was due to the increased availability of the surgery and the willingness of insurance companies to pay for these types of surgeries. Okay, so there's a little bit more meat to that sentence rather than here's a number and it increased. Because as a reader, my next question is going to be, okay, why is there a 21% increase in liposuction? Is it because that it's available? Is it because doctors are just more willing to do it? So add the extra meat. Don't just report the numbers, report why the researchers say that number increased. And a lot of times you can find that answer when you look at the discussion section of a paper. So when you're looking at your research articles, you're going to have an intro, you're going to have a method, you're going to have a results, and in the discussion, they're going to tell you why they got the results they got or what they believe. And so that's where you go to add to the numbers that you're reporting. All right, and then lastly, at the end of your introduction, what I'm going to be looking for is a purpose statement and a hypothesis statement. And here's my example. Therefore, the purpose of this study was to examine obesity in college students. It is hypothesized that students will be considered obese and be similar to the population. All right, so I'm going to correct my error here real quick. That is incorrect. All right, so therefore, the purpose of the study is to examine obesity in college students. I want you to tell me what the purpose is of your study, and I want you to tell me what you are going to hypothesize with your study. All right, that's what I'm going to be looking for as you develop your papers.